Enaa, in with you in the fight back. And today I'm doing another FAQ, and this is on Karl Marx's theory of religion. Because too often when we hear Karl Marx and religion, we just assume this evil, monstrous, godless atheism that can really be summed up in one phrase.
Religion is the opium of the people.
Oftentimes the phrase, religion is the opium of the people, is one of the few things that most non-Marxists and Marxists even read about Marx's views on religion, which is rather unfortunate, because if all Karl Marx said is religion is the opium of the people, there's really not much to it. It's a rather simple, straightforward phrase. And in fact, Karl Marx didn't even really originate it. There were certain variations of this phrase that came earlier. The phrase comes from Karl Marx as a contribution to the critique of Hegel's philosophy of right, written in 1843. And I'd like to go through some of the paragraphs that precede this phrase to actually get at what Marx actually said about religion, to show its nuances and its rather profound meaning. So let's get started.
For Germany, the criticism of religion has been essentially completed, and the criticism of religion is the prerequisite of all criticism.
Karl Marx is writing in 1843. The Prussian state was a near absolute monarchy, where religion and state were fused as one. To criticize religion was in effect to criticize the state. And when Karl Marx says that the criticism of religion has been essentially completed, he's speaking of the young Hegelian movement, which in its more radical wing had been criticizing the foundations of Christianity, charging that it was largely make-believe, that it was not historical, that it was just fantastic. And he's also drawing upon the Enlightenment criticism of religion that had developed in the 18th century. And when saying that once we've criticized religion, which is the prerequisite, then we can move on to criticizing other things, such as politics and the state.
The foundation of irreligious criticism is man makes religion. Religion does not make man. Religion is, indeed, the self-consciousness and self-esteem of man, who has either not yet won through to himself or has already lost himself again. But man is no abstract being squatting outside the world. Man is the world of man, state, society.
When Karl Marx says that the foundation of irreligious criticism is man makes religion, religion does not make man, he's essentially saying that there is no God who did not create man. He's saying rather the reverse. Man, in his environment, whatever that environment may be, created religion. But man has certain capabilities, the ability to labor, to think. Yet, because of religion, with its fantastic, its supernatural beliefs, this self-consciousness of man's capabilities, of his self-consciousness and self-esteem, is not attributed to man. It is attributed to religion. It's attributed to God. Rather, man is seen as a creation of a higher being who does not exist, and man's innate capabilities to labor, to think, and so forth are not attributed to man. And further on, when Marx says that man is no abstract being squatting outside the world, he is saying that man doesn't exist in a vacuum. It wasn't some God who put man in a vacuum. Man, it lives in a certain world, a certain state, society, a mode of production. And that's the mode of production that we want to get past. Once we get past all the mystifications of religion, we start to reach the state. We can focus on the real things that exist, the state and society.
This state and this society produce religion, which is an inverted consciousness of the world because they are an inverted world. Religion is the general theory of this world, its encyclopedic compendium, its logic in popular form, its spiritual point d'honneur, its enthusiasm, its moral sanction, its solemn complement, and its universal basis of consolation and justification.
Furthermore, religion, as I've emphasized earlier, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's created in a certain environment. This state, society, they produce religion. And religion, again, is an inverted consciousness. We look at, for instance, God made the world. And we saw this in the Middle Ages when there were certain orders of being. It goes from God to angels, kings, nobles, peasants. Everyone has their place. And religion is seen as providing the answers. We have a mode of living. It's encyclopedic commendium. It's moral sanction. Religion, especially in the arms of the state, can say it is you have to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. You have to pay your taxes. You have to serve in the army. You have to do all the things that a good citizen is supposed to do because God commands it. It's in the holy books. And it's justified through using those texts. And depending on the state and society we're living in, those texts can be looked upon in different ways. For instance, in the Middle Ages, it would have been unthinkable to say that all citizens must participate in voting, in popular participation, because this was an age of kings. This is an age when nobles decided. Now we can see it in the United States. Certain religions will say it is your God-given duty to vote. And you can see that religion is providing a certain moral foundation and support of a particular state and society, depending on what that state and society is.
It is the fantastic realization of the human essence, since the human essence has not yet acquired any true reality. The struggle against religion is, therefore, indirectly the struggle against that world whose spiritual aroma is religion.
When Karl Marx is talking about the fantastic realization of the human essence, he's talking about the social conditions in which we live. And religion is the fantastic realization. It's showing us the order of the world, how the world is supposed to look through its holy book, its moral sanctions, its canon, law, etc., whatever form religion happens to take. But religion is a fantastic form. It's supernatural. It's really not based in reality, although it impacts reality, certainly. But when Karl Marx is saying we struggle against religion, we want to get past this fantastic view of looking at the world through religious categories, and we need to get past it and look at the actual conditions in which humankind interacts, its mode of production, its actual class structure, not the fantastic realization that religion foists upon it. So we need to when we attack religion, we're in essence attacking what religion is supporting, the whole social edifice behind religion at the same time.
Religious suffering is, at one and the same time, the expression of real suffering and a protest against real suffering. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of the heartless world, and the soul of a soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people.
In this passage that I think the clear dialectical understanding of Marx on religion really comes out, despite what people may say. Although religion has certainly been used to justify the prevailing state of affairs, it has a two-edged sword. Because at the same time that religion shows that it supports an existing state of affairs, its often moral sanctions call for a different state of affairs. When Jesus says it is easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to go into heaven, he's in a sense protesting against a state of affairs where the rich are too powerful. And this can, at the same time, be a protest, even if these teachings of Jesus can be used in a different form to support an existing state of affairs. So we have seen, for instance, religion in certain conditions has been a beacon, a rallying cry, as you were, for the oppressed. We have seen this in the peasant war in Germany in the 1500s. Liberation theology in Central and South America against military regimes. So even though religion, yes, it can be a support of a often horrible state of affairs, poverty and exploitation, on the other hand, it is possible under certain conditions for religion to serve as a rallying cry to the oppressed. And then when Marx says it is the opium of the people, you have to really look at that in the preceding sentences. He's saying opium is a drug. It makes us feel better. It makes us feel good. And when we take a drug, it helps us escape from the often maybe the horrible conditions we are living in to a good state of affairs. But and religion does this when we embrace it to, for instance, maybe a rallying cry for the oppressed. Yes, it is a good state. It helps us feel better. But religion ultimately serves as a fantastic realization. It shields the actual social relations that exist in society, its class structure. And we need to get past religion, get past the drug like effect of it, and actually look at these conditions that exist.
The abolition of religion as the illusionary happiness of the people is the demand for their real happiness. To call on them to give up their illusion about their condition is to call on them to give up a condition that requires illusions. The criticism of religion is, therefore, in embryo, the criticism of that veil of tears of which religion is the halo.
Too often we've seen that religion says to those in poverty, suffer and endure it now, and in the hereafter you'll get your reward in heaven. Marx is saying that this is illusionary happiness, that we need to abolish this in religion. We need to abolish this illusionary happiness and to demand their real happiness. We need for people to give up the illusions, this supernatural view of viewing the world that obscures the actual social relations that exist. Because the supernatural view is based on the fantastic, the unreal. It doesn't exist. And we need to not only give up these illusions, and we need to give up this religious condition that requires illusions. And there are certain exceptions, of course, but when you tend to be immersed in religion and you accept its moral sanctions that justify an existing state of affairs, you're buying into a whole state of illusions. And to attack religion, to really attack religion, is to actually attack society itself. And by that, Marx obviously means capitalism. The whole system of exploitation and greed, and to destroy it and build a real society where the free development of each is the condition for the free development of all. Where this whole system of illusions is not required because humankind has advanced beyond them and can see the actual conditions that exist, and they are not ground down by the horrible poverty that requires them to believe in a supernatural force that justifies things. So, in conclusion, we can say that Marx's view of religion was certainly influenced by the existing state of affairs in Prussia and the young Hegelians, but it's rather nuanced, looking at the various ways religion is at the same time a justification for an existing order society and a protest against it. Well, this religion, in its support of an existing order, often gives moral sanctions and provides a supernatural view of that society that obscures its real relations. And Marx, in arguing for the abolition of religion, is actually arguing for the abolition of a society that requires religion, the poverty, the exploitation, and to develop a real human society. This is what I believe is Karl Marx's actual critique of religion. This is Enaa. Until next time.